Have you ever stopped all contact with a narcissist and then felt them watching? Even though they aren't texting, calling, or posting your photos, you may not have heard from them, but their presence feels louder than ever. And here's why. Because narcissists don't just miss you. They suffer. Not heartbreak in the romantic sense. Not quiet tears. They suffer with a craving, a vacuum where your attention, validation, and emotional availability used to be. Today, we're going to explore the powerful mental, emotional, and yes, neurobiological evidence that narcissists experience exile as a profound crisis, especially when you go no contact. Despite their exterior bravado, clinical psychology shows that narcissists depend on external mirrors to feel real. When those mirrors vanish, they spiral. And even if they can't or won't admit it, they feel pain. We'll unpack why silence becomes unbearable to them, how they search for your energy in hidden ways, the internal collapse that no one sees, what this reveals about emotional dependence, and several more insights you need to reclaim your peace without guilt. So stay with me, because understanding why they suffer, not to excuse or engage them, but to dismantle their power over you, will shift how you own your healing. And that's the real breakthrough. 1. Narcissistic supply starvation is real emotional pain. Narcissists rely on what psychologists call narcissistic supply, constant attention, validation, and emotional energy from others to maintain their self-esteem. Without it, their ego system collapses. This isn't poetic. It's neurobiological. When deprived of supply, they experience anxiety, insomnia, flat affect, and obsessive thoughts about the person who left. That suffering isn't visible, but it's deeply real. 2. The mirror of identity is removed. Healthy individuals have an internal, stable sense of self. Narcissists don't. Their identity is created mirrored in others' responses. When you go no contact, you're not just gone. You erase their existence. And with no reflection, they don't know who they are anymore. Asterisk, asterisk. 3. Compulsive monitoring reveals their inner turmoil. Even if they never reach out, narcissists surveil you. They check profiles, refresh stories, ask mutual friends about you. This hidden stalking isn't curiosity. It's survival. Every proof of your life is borrowed supply. The obsession that fuels it, suffering born from disconnection. 4. Emotionally addicted to chaos. Narcissists often foster relationship cycles of love, conflict, reconciliation, a method known as intermittent reinforcement. The human brain responds to sudden unpredictability with dopamine spikes, creating emotional addiction. When the chaos stops, the addiction withdraws. This is not romance. It's a neurochemical hangover, and it hurts. 5. They hijack others to feel your absence. The narcissist who no longer speaks to you may yet use third parties, mutual friends, acquaintances, co-workers, to feel your reaction through indirect channels. It's not peace. It's desperation. They want to simulate your energy because direct access has disappeared. 6. Phantom emotional pain. They actually misfeel it. Phantom pain isn't just physical. It can be emotional. Narcissists have reported feeling longing, emptiness, internal voids, even when nothing changed externally in their day-to-day lives. This suffering is emotionally real to them, proof that the absence impacts them deeply. 7. Identity fracture. Self-image implodes in silence. Narcissistic individuals experience an identity fracture, an internal breakdown, when not emotionally reinforced. Psychologically, they describe waking up feeling numb, empty, or like a shell. This collapse isn't depression. It's identity trauma, their self gone missing. 8. Their fantasy control begins to break down. One of the strongest defense mechanisms a narcissist builds is the belief that they're always in control, even when they're not. This illusion is shattered when you go no contact and refuse to engage with their games. They believe they could hoover you back at will, that they could play on your empathy, guilt, or fear, that when they were ready you would be too. But when your silence holds and your boundaries remain intact, the fantasy begins to crack. And narcissists don't cope well with reality. This is a kind of cognitive dissonance. The belief that they are irresistible collides with the reality that you're gone and not coming back. That dissonance is emotionally destabilizing. they experience as rejection. But deeper than that, they feel humiliated. Their ego was invested in the idea that you were an extension of them, that they owned your reactions. And when that ends, the fantasy dissolves. That dissolution is painful because it forces them to reckon with something they've avoided their whole lives: powerlessness. 9. They feel like they're being abandoned all over again. Most narcissists carry deep, unresolved abandonment wounds from early childhood. This could be emotional neglect, inconsistent caregivers, or traumatic attachment. They responded to this pain by overcompensating, by developing an inflated self to protect against rejection. But here's the thing, those old wounds never really healed. So when you go no contact, it's not just you leaving them. To their psyche, it feels like a reenactment of the first abandonment, the one that taught them love is not safe, that people disappear, that they are unworthy. But instead of processing it like a healthy adult, they regress. They become reactive, angry, and controlling, or eerily silent. Behind a mask, though, the pain is searing. No contact triggers a primal injury. It taps into the deepest part of them, the part they built their whole life trying to bury. That's why your silence is more than just inconvenient. To the narcissist, it's devastating. 10. Their desperation comes out in subtle sabotage. The suffering narcissists experience post-no contact often leads to sabotaging behaviors, aimed at you or even at themselves. They may start rumors, manipulate mutual friends, or post cryptic things on social media, hoping to provoke a reaction. But underneath the drama is not power. It's panic. This behavior is a cry for relevance, for visibility. Sometimes they'll even sabotage their own lives, self-destructive spending, reckless relationships, or impulsive decisions. It's all a form of acting out, a way to anesthetize a deep, creeping void left behind when you stop being available. This is not evidence of healing or moving on. It's evidence of suffering they can't name, won't face, and desperately try to outrun. 11. Their relationships after you are almost always hollow. There's a common myth that narcissists move on fast, that they replace you quickly, that they fall in love again without blinking. Let's break that down. Yes, they may enter a new relationship quickly, but this is not recovery. It's replacement. It's a distraction from the inner collapse that began when you left. But here's what's critical. Even in that new relationship, they're still haunted by your absence. Why? Because narcissists don't bond based on intimacy or emotional connection. They bond based on control and utility. And when you broke free, when you became someone they couldn't control, you became their benchmark. They don't move on. They replicate the pattern, hoping to regain the feeling of power they lost. Their new partner is not a celebration. It's a bandage. And no matter how they portray it publicly, it doesn't resolve the hole you left behind. 12. They experience silent rage when you don't return. Narcissistic rage is often loud. Explosive words, grand displays, intimidation. But when they don't have access to you anymore, it takes a different form. Silent rage. It festers beneath the surface. They rage when you don't check on them, when you don't react to their bait, when your healing becomes visible and undeniable. They don't show it outright, especially if their reputation is on the line. But internally they seethe, because for a narcissist, being ignored is the ultimate insult. It confirms that they are no longer in control of your emotional state, and that loss of control is their most terrifying experience. It leaves them boiling in resentment, yet unable to fix it. That's not power. That's pain, camouflaged as silence. 13. The collapse of their grandiosity feels like death. Grandiosity is the inflated sense of self the narcissist carries to survive. It's the delusion that they're superior, more important, untouchable. Your no-contact challenges that directly. It contradicts their inflated self-image. It says, you're not above consequences. You're not as powerful as you think. You don't get unlimited access. This contradiction is like psychological death. When grandiosity collapses, narcissists experience profound shame, not the healthy kind that leads to accountability, but the toxic, intolerable kind that causes them to lash out or spiral inward. This shame is unbearable for them. It causes emotional disorientation, self-loathing, and a desperate need to recover control. And here's the thing, your silence is a trigger, not because you're cruel, but because they've never developed the resilience to sit with accountability or authentic vulnerability. So they suffer, alone, silently, chronically. 14. Time doesn't heal them, it triggers them. There's a saying that time heals all wounds, but not in the narcissist world. Time for them is not soothing, it's exposing. Because with each passing day, your life moves forward, and theirs feels increasingly hollow. You build, you grow, you begin again. They, meanwhile, are stuck in their same loop. No contact creates a mirror they can't escape from. And with every day you don't return, the reality becomes harder to deny. They weren't just rejected. They were replaced, not by someone else, but by your self-worth. And that is the loss they cannot handle. 15. They're haunted by who you were, not because they miss you, but because you're irreplaceable. A narcissist does not miss you in the way you may have once missed them. They don't long for connection, intimacy, or shared memories with a healthy lens. What they miss is what you gave them. Your empathy, your presence, your patience, your belief in their potential. But over time, and especially in silence, they begin to realize that this combination, someone who loved deeply but eventually got away, is extraordinarily rare. Not because you were perfect, but because you were whole. They may try to dismiss your value, devalue your role in their lives, or convince others that you were just another person. But none of that soothes them, because you are the benchmark. You're the last person who truly saw them, and yet still chose yourself. That haunts them, quietly, deeply, relentlessly. 16. They spiral internally when you become unreachable. In narcissistic psychology, the concept of object permanence is underdeveloped. This means that when someone is not available to them, visibly or emotionally, they often behave as if that person no longer exists. But when the silence stretches, when your energy is no longer accessible, something flips. Suddenly, they can't stop thinking about you. They become fixated. And this fixation becomes a kind of spiraling. They question whether you've moved on. They obsess over how you could be so calm. They cycle between blaming you, idealizing you, and fearing they've lost you forever. They don't reach out because of pride or fear of rejection, but the torment is real. Their mind becomes a prison, full of what-ifs, full of regret, full of images of your strength. You are no longer theirs, and they know it. 17. Their false self starts to fracture, and they have no backup plan. Every narcissist relies on a psychological structure known as the false self. It's an inflated, curated identity they show the world, and sometimes even believe themselves. When you go no contact, the false self is starved. They can no longer maintain the image of being wanted, needed, or adored by you. And as that image weakens, so does their mask. They may begin to unravel. Not in public, usually, but internally, in the quiet places they never show. You've taken away the mirror that reflected their favorite version of themselves. Now, they're left with the real one, and they hate what they see. There's no inner compass, no stable self-concept, just fear, emptiness, and confusion. And the worst part for them, they have no tools to rebuild it. 18. They quietly envy your freedom. Narcissists are not free people. Even though they act bold, dominant, or untouchable, they live in a psychological cage, one they built themselves. Your silence, your healing, your peace, it represents everything they do not have. They may mock it. They may pretend they don't care. But make no mistake, they notice and they envy you, not because they love you, but because deep down, they want to feel what you now feel, centered, calm, grounded, free. Your absence is not just a loss. It's a mirror of their emotional poverty. They can't have what you have, because what you've built, resilience, boundaries, inner peace, can't be stolen. It has to be earned. And they never learned how. 19. They hope you'll break the silence, so they won't have to. Many narcissists will never reach out after no contact, not because they're over you, but because reaching out would admit defeat. Instead, they hope that one day you'll send a message, react to a post, ask someone about them. They crave it because it means the door is still open, that you still care. that they still matter. But when that doesn't come, when silence is the only answer, they begin to wither. Slowly, quietly, they may pretend they're fine. But every unreturned hope is a pin to their ego, a small wound. And over time, it adds up. That's how your silence becomes your power. 20. They live in fear that you've seen the truth. Here's what keeps them up at night. It's not that you left. It's not even that you're happy. It's that you finally saw through them, that you recognize a manipulation, that you caught the patterns, that you named the gaslighting, that you no longer blame yourself. This is the real suffering. Because a narcissist can handle being hated, but they cannot handle being seen and walked away from. Your truth is the one thing they can't control. And that makes it the most powerful thing in the world. So, do narcissists suffer after you go no contact? Absolutely. But the suffering they feel isn't the kind that leads to growth, empathy, or change. It's the kind that exposes their inner emptiness, their dependence on control, and their inability to exist without being reflected back by someone like you. But the most important takeaway is not about their pain. It's about your freedom. Because when you understand what happens in your absence, you stop doubting your decision. You stop wondering if they ever cared. You stop believing the story that you were too much, or too sensitive, or never enough. You were more than enough. You were light. You were truth. And now you are free. So take that freedom and use it well. Build the life you were always meant to live. Grounded in truth. Rooted in peace. And surrounded by people who don't need to be chased to value your worth. If this message resonated with you, please like this video, share it with someone who's still in the thick of silence, and subscribe to this channel for more guidance rooted in clinical insight and radical compassion. You are not alone. You never were. And now, you're awake, aware, and walking in the strength they never expected you to find. Stay brave. Stay grounded. And above all, stay you.